Je suis revenu.
Bonjour et bienvenue au Festival de Cannes, or as Quentin Tarantino called it in his opening remarks,
Festival of Cannes!
Man, the guy made a whole movie that was largely in French and apparently picked up none of the language. Anyway, I'm back for my second year at Cannes, and this year, I'm honestly struggling to figure out what should this video be. See, last year at the festival, Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis was playing, this movie decades in the making that was this huge, insane thing that at the time, we weren't sure if it would ever actually be released in theaters. And so that was obviously the whole focus of my video. But this year, there's no movie here that's like that. I mean, yeah, I could base the whole video around Mission Impossible because that premiered here out of competition, but by the time you're watching this, Mission Impossible is already out in theaters. There's nothing that special about me seeing it a week early in France. And while I was here, I ran into fellow Nebula YouTube folks, Thomas Flight and Tom Vanderlinden, and we were all talking and kind of commiserating about what do we do with our Cannes videos? How do we do these so we're not just all making the exact same thing? And it really got me thinking, what should a Cannes video be? How do all of us just avoid making different versions of the same video? What do people actually want from one of these? Why did you click on it? Do you want a minute-by-minute recap where I talk about watching the opening ceremony, where a French celebrity that I didn't recognize gave an opening monologue I mostly didn't understand? And then we all watched the opening film, which I'd always heard tends to be some forgettable French comedy, but I actually found it to be surprisingly lovely. It was a dramedy called Partir un jour, which means leave one day. It's kind of like Takahata's Only Yesterday, except if it was funnier and involved more love triangles and cooking and was also a musical, but no, I don't want to just review every movie that I watched, because then I'll have to say things like, well, sorry folks, but I can't really properly tell you if Two Prosecutors is good or not, because I watched it while still seriously jet-lagged and fell asleep for a lot of it. So, what should a Cannes video be? Okay, I should probably explain how going to the festival actually works. From the outside, this all seems so glamorous and over-the-top and pretentious. It's the biggest, most famous film festival in the world. All these fancy people on red carpets on the French Riviera, standing and clapping for hours like total freaks. Surely I, a regular person, could never go there. But I can. And I did, and you watching this, you can go too. There are 3 ways to go to Cannes. Number 1, be a film industry professional. Almost any kind of role in film production counts. There's this super long list on the website. Number 2, be a member of the press. This is how I go, because apparently this channel qualifies as audiovisual press, and they approved it, which still feels crazy. And number 3, be a person who just wants to go and watch movies. They have rules about either being a film student or involved with some kind of cinema club. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I'm not an expert on how this part works. And they also have the 3 days in Cannes pass, which is just for anyone between the ages of 18 and 28, which gives you 3 days of access to the festival to just go and watch a bunch of movies. Then of course there's the matter of getting to Cannes, which either involves flying to the Nice airport, which is like 40 minutes from Cannes by car, or taking the train from elsewhere in Europe. The city itself is pretty small and walkable, and all the screenings are either in the Grand Palais, the main building with all the red carpets, or in the Cineum, which is just like a regular multiplex down the road. If you have a festival badge, one of these guys, you can ride the buses all around town for free, and they run all the time. Once you have a badge, the real challenge is getting tickets to screenings. They don't cost anything if you've got the badge, but different badges give you a different level of priority in terms of when you can get tickets. Tickets for each day of the festival are available 4 days in advance. And for press, this happens at 7 a.m. France time. So every day you've got to be ready right when the clock hits 7, refreshing the page over and over again, and then you have seconds to grab tickets before they're gone. So this means that when I was in New York in the days before I got to Cannes, I had to do this at 1 a.m. It seems discouraging at first because tickets are gone so fast and you'll often fail to get what you really want. but two things you need to keep in mind. Number one, people cancel tickets all the time. So if you just keep checking back and refreshing the page throughout the day, you'll probably be able to grab the ones that you want. And number two, you can give tickets to other people. So it helps to go with friends and grab tickets for each other. Okay, so that pretty much covers all the logistical stuff. That's how it works. Is that what you wanted to know? No? Okay. While I had a great time at the festival last year, I really wasn't sure for a while if I was going to come back this year. In fact, I didn't actually book my travel and commit to the trip until 2 weeks before the festival started. And right now, if I'm hitting my deadline and getting this video out when I want to, the festival is actually still going on. So I have no idea who won the Palme d'Or. And also based on the movies that I saw, I couldn't even guess what it might be. So the festival lasts for 2 weeks. Last year I came for the second week. This year I came for the first week, which means that because the schedule was not announced until after I booked my travel, I ended up missing a bunch of the movies that I really wanted to see. So I regret to inform you that the following films will not be discussed in this video. So right now, you're probably thinking, Patrick, you moron, why the hell would you go all the way to Cannes and then not stick around to see highest to lowest? Well look man, I'm doing the best that I can, and the situation is that I could really only justify sticking around for 1 week of the festival. See, for regular critics who are here, who are getting paid by the review, the more movies they see, the more reviews they write, the more they get paid. But for me, I'm making one video. I'm getting paid one time. If I stick around longer, all it's doing is costing me more money, and so I could really only justify being here for 1 week. That's it, and the first week just worked out better with my schedule. But I will say, for anyone watching this interested in coming to Cannes, and what I would recommend to get the best bang for your buck is to come for 1 week, but arrive halfway through the first week and leave halfway through the second week. And so that way, you've got the best odds of seeing the vast majority of like the movies that you want to see. The really buzzed about, hyped up movies from the major filmmakers. If I come back, and I'm sure even if it's not next year, I will come back at some point, that is what I'm going to do. Qu'est-ce qu'une vidéo de Cannes devrait être? Should this just be a bunch of reviews where like I talk about every movie that I saw? That's basically what I did last year. Instead, I want to talk about my 5 favorite films that I saw there. The first is Sound of Falling, a German film from director Masha Schalinski, whose title in German translates to, I think, Staring at the Sun, which is very different. It's this bleak, haunted portrait of a German farmhouse across 4 different periods spanning a century, focusing on different girls and women living there. It feels like a ghost story, even though there are no supernatural elements, but there's this unsettling, haunted vibe to it. The 4 timelines are woven together, and the jumps between them are disorienting for a while as you're trying to work out the connections, like how we meet this one guy with a missing leg in the opening scene, and then later, in another timeline set decades earlier, we see how he lost that leg. It is 2.5 hours of really unsettling vibes, pairing floating POV shots with harsh ambient sound design as characters constantly contemplate death, whether the deaths of friends and family, or how easy it would be to end their own lives. It might not sound fun, but it is genuinely arresting and hypnotic. You can draw comparisons to everyone from Tarkovsky to Lynch to Malick, but this is something unique. I should say, when I saw this, I was still adjusting to the time zone and had not had a full night's sleep in days, and so I wasn't as alert for the first half as I wish I had been. So I liked it and appreciated it, but I'm excited for a second fully alert viewing in which I suspect I'll love it. A common refrain at Cannes, something I said multiple times and heard from many people, is no fault of the movie, but I nodded off a few times. What should a Cannes video be? An ode to cappuccinos. I cannot overstate how essential these are to the Cannes experience. you're fighting jet lag, going to 10:30 p.m. screenings and then getting up before 7 a.m. every day to get tickets. And then watching a lot of slow art films. Also, some of the theaters, I'm looking at Bazan Theater on the 3rd floor, are a little bit too warm. They are not blasted with AC like American theaters, and this does not help. And I did not come all this way on this expensive trip to France to sleep in movie theaters. So yes, drink those cappuccinos. Drink so many cappuccinos. I guess you can drink regular coffee too, but je voudrais un cappuccino. There's a free Nespresso bar in the Grand Palais, which is a lifesaver, but if you ask me, they should have like 5 free Nespresso bars. What should a Cannes video be? Well, it needs big movie stars, so let's talk about Die My Love, a movie that screened at 10:15 p.m., so yes, I had 2 cappuccinos at dinner, and there was 0 sleeping during this one. This is the first movie from Lynn Ramsey in 8 years, and stars Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson, so yeah, this was one of the most hyped movies of the festival. And it's exciting walking into something this major and realizing, I have absolutely no idea what this movie is about. And it's also exciting being there for a movie that just kind of baffles the entire audience. Like, this ended and there was just total silence in the theater as everyone quietly shuffled out, going, what was that? The film starts out so aggressively, with cacophonous rock music playing over a frantic handheld sequence of Lawrence and Pattinson dancing manically and having sex intercut with a forest burning. And then as it jumps ahead to after she's given birth to their baby, immediately it gets a lot weirder, with Lawrence stalking through the front yard on all fours like an animal, brandishing a kitchen knife. In the moment, I wasn't sure how I felt about the movie. I kept expecting it to take some turn or build to something that it never actually did, but it's so dynamic and Lawrence dominates the movie with such full-bodied ferocity that it's impossible to be bored. And while there are elements that I'm still grappling with, like the weird small role played by Lakeith Stanfield, it's grown on me a lot the more time has passed. This is definitely going to get a big mainstream push later this year, considering, the big movie stars in it, and I cannot wait to see general audiences be confounded by it. Also, I have to give a shout out to the cinematography by Seamus McGarvey, in my opinion, one of the most underrated DPs of the century, doing astonishing, maybe career best work. What should a Cannes video be? As you watch movie after movie, spending most of your days looking at a bright screen in a dark room, connections and patterns begin to emerge. Like you notice, here are very different movies about the lives of real-life writers. Or, oh, here are multiple stories about self-destructive women dealing with motherhood and performances that are bound to be called fearless in countless reviews. So anyway, I saw Kristen Stewart's directorial debut, The Chronology of Water. And folks, I'm very happy to say that K-Stu has got the goods. This is the most intense movie I saw at the festival, grabbing you and forcibly holding you in the POV of the main character as she charges forward through years of a very difficult life, dealing with abuse, trauma, addiction, and more. There's a lot going on here. But despite all that, it avoids becoming misery porn. It is exciting, not punishing, and it actually maintains a sense of humor. And much of that rests on Imogen Poots, who finally gets the incredible lead role that I've been hoping she would for years. This is the best performance I saw at the festival, just incredible stuff, so don't be thrown by the pretentious sounding title. This one rocks. What should a Cannes video be? What if I just made a travel video about Cannes cuisine? Just talking about all the wine and Aperol spritzes that I drank. Look, wine is like $6 a glass here. It would be a waste not to have as much as possible. The thing that I learned last year is that the cuisine of the south of France isn't really French cuisine. It's mostly mediocre Italian cuisine. I mean, it's fine. There are good restaurants here, but I would not go to Cannes for the food. Go to Paris for the food, not Cannes. One good thing I will say is that at least the food is reasonably priced, unlike Swiss food, which is a goddamn outrage. But okay, enough complaining about food. We have to get back to the main question. What should a Cannes video be? It should be fancy, right? Everyone thinks of Cannes as fancy. One of my goals for this year was to attend one of the premieres, like the big, proper, fancy red carpet ones. See, the extremely strict rule is that for the movie premieres happening in the evening, the one that all the celebrities are at, there is a black tie dress code. And these are also the hardest things to get tickets to. But being overconfident, I decided to buy a tuxedo for this trip in the hope that I could make it to one of the premieres. Shit, I'm just realizing now, I should have reached out to Suit Supply before I left for the trip to see if they would be my tux sponsor. Instead, I am an idiot and just realizing this now, like 2 weeks later. I am very bad at being an influencer. But anyway, I did get to wear that tux that I spent a bunch of money on for the premiere of Bono, Stories of Surrender, which is the Bono one-man show / concert film directed by Andrew Dominic. And so, I got to get dressed up all fancy. And I left myself plenty of time to learn how to tie a bow tie. Hey, sure enough, at the premiere there was Bono and The Edge, and because I am not famous, I got hurried up the red carpet and no one took my picture, but whatever, it was still fun. And also, the movie was good. Look, I like U2. I do not still hold a grudge for the time they put music on my phone, and I don't recoil from Bono's open-hearted grandiosity the way some people do. So if you're cool with all that, it turns out that he's a really engaging storyteller, mostly telling stories about his early life and his relationship with his father, interspersed with really good, stripped-down performances of several classic songs, with really rich black and white cinematography from Eric Messerschmidt. So it was a very nice, classy evening at the Pictures. And also, Sean Penn was there and brought members of the Ukrainian army as his guests. Hey, Cannes is a wild place. So what should a Cannes video be? About movies, I guess. Beyond the big hyped up movies with major stars, at festivals like this, it's important to roll the dice on stuff. Just grab a ticket for some random thing since you've got the morning free and see what it is. So I got a ticket for a movie I'd never heard of called Arco. This is a French animated sci-fi adventure movie where almost all of its publicity comes from the fact that it was produced by Natalie Portman and she was at the premiere. But this was not the premiere, this was just a screening and she wasn't there, so who cares? And I thought this was delightful. It's about a kid from a distant utopian future who uses his family's time travel suit without permission and ends up in the year 2075. And he meets a girl who helps him try to get home. Also, there are terrific robots. It's like a fusion of a Mobius comic and a Miyazaki film. Just a really lovely surprise that was not on my radar at all until I saw it pop up on the ticket site. What should a Cannes video be? Maybe it should be larger observations about the festival itself. One immediate thing to comment on is the presence of Hollywood stars and movies. Obviously, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning premiered here this year out of competition. Tom Cruise, Earth's ambassador for the movies, was welcomed as a hero. There was an event that day billed as a rendezvous with Christopher McQuarrie discussing filmmaking, and halfway through, Cruise came out to join him and the place went nuts. But this kind of thing is really nothing new. Furiosa premiered here a year ago, Indiana Jones did the year before that. In 2022, Cruise was here again with Top Gun Maverick. Hell, back in 2001, fucking Shrek premiered in competition for the Palme d'Or. But what is a much newer development is Cannes playing a huge role in the American award season. 4 of the last 5 Palme d'Or winners were nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. Titane was snubbed, and 2 of them won. So this is now the real beginning of award season. So immediately people are talking about Oscar buzz for Jennifer Lawrence and deciding no Oscar buzz for Ari Aster and Eddington. And on a smaller scale, some are wondering if Arco will become the next Flow, a small European animated movie that premieres at Cannes and rides a wave of adoration all the way to the Oscars. It's weird to think about how here, you are playing a role in creating buzz. This is where so much of the conversation around movies that's gonna dominate the rest of the year begins. The whole time I was there, I was constantly getting texts from friends back home asking, how was Eddington? How was the new Linklater? And after I logged it on Letterboxd, I got so many DMs from Brazilian followers demanding to know what I thought of The Secret Agent. I liked it. And if I learned anything from Cannes last year, it's that I will probably end up being totally wrong about some of these movies, which I'm sure will be a lot of fun to find out. What should a Cannes video be? That was the question that was haunting me for much of this trip. And then I saw Richard Linklater's Nouvelle Vague, and it all clicked into place. This film is about Jean-Luc Godard making Breathless, but you get all the French New Wave Cahiers du Cinéma guys in here, plus even Rossellini and Jean-Pierre Melville. Now, I love Linklater. The guy makes like a movie a year, and if one doesn't hit, the next one almost certainly will. But I had no clue what this would be. Making a movie about actual real-life great filmmakers is automatically putting yourself in a tough spot, forcing a comparison to their work. And an American filmmaker taking on the greatest icons of French cinema at Cannes feels like setting yourself up for failure, for everyone to boo you out of the room. Instead, it was the exact opposite. The audience ate it up. The premiere got, so far, the longest standing ovation of the festival. I wasn't even at the premiere, just a regular screening, and the audience was cheering at the end. Because yes, it is, to use that really tired expression, a love letter to the French New Wave and to cinema itself. But mostly, it is another classic Linklater hangout movie. A lovely, very funny time watching a bunch of kids run around Paris with cameras. What makes Nouvelle Vague work is that despite Breathless being this huge, impactful, revolutionary film, this doesn't present the events with any profundity or awareness of their future significance. Godard is just this pretentious guy who annoys all his collaborators. The whole thing is so light and casual. Now, of course, there is the great inherent tension of this movie that I'm sure people will keep bringing up. Is it a problem that a movie about the making of revolutionary cinema is so traditional and not itself revolutionary or cutting edge or experimental? I feel like we just went through this with a complete unknown, with people going, how can you make such a straightforward movie about an artist as odd and revolutionary as Bob Dylan? And look, I get the issue, and I did think about it while watching the film. Does the form of a film need to reflect its subject? I mean, like, yeah, it can, sure, but also, is a more traditional, straightforward approach inherently bad? No, of course not. That's like a dumb second-year film student thing to say. If the movie was made as a Godard pastiche, it would suck. What makes the movie work is that it understands that something that did go on to become so historically significant began really innocently and unknowingly. Nouvelle Vague makes you want to go out and make a movie yourself, not because you might make a masterpiece that gets inducted into the Criterion Collection, but because it's fun to make stuff with your friends. And so yeah, after we saw the movie, my friends and I went out to dinner and went, hey, maybe the Cannes video should just be like a silly homage to that. What should a Cannes video be? Look, the real answer is, it should be about yacht parties. But once again, no one fucking invited me to one. I mean, what's the deal? There are so many yachts here. What's a guy gotta do to get invited to some parties on boats? I mean, the answer is probably be rich, but still. Come on, people, next year, please invite me to some parties. If I go next year, I don't know, I haven't made plans yet, but I would like to attend some. We talk a lot these days about algorithms. Like the new Mission Impossible is about an evil algorithm trying to destroy the world. Algorithms on YouTube, our streaming platforms, suggest what you'll like based on previous things you've watched. Studios only want to greenlight IP sequels and reboots because they don't trust audiences to watch anything they're not already intimately familiar with. But the experience at a festival like this is the exact opposite of all that. Here you're watching multiple movies a day with absolutely no idea what they're going to be. So there isn't the pressure of going, oh, if I go see a movie, it'd better be a safe bet where I know exactly what I'm getting. Because whatever, it's just 2 hours and then you're gonna watch another one. And leaving the festival to go home, it just makes me want to watch way more movies. We should all be watching more movies all the time, whether at film festivals or in theaters or at home, because movies are the best. And sometimes you just have to travel to the south of France to be reminded of it. So the news just broke that Die My Love was acquired by Mubi, which I think is really exciting because 1, Mubi is the sponsor of this video, so it's relevant, and 2, because it means that the movie is going to get a major release. Because Mubi has been growing steadily as a film distributor these last several years. Last year at Cannes, they picked up The Substance, one of the most talked about movies at the festival, and gave it this big release where it went on to become a major commercial success and a Best Picture Oscar nominee, which I think is pretty impressive for a movie that is extremely weird and dark and gross. Mubi has become one of the major players at the festival. Like this year, they've also got The History of Sound, starring Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor, Kelly Reichardt's new movie, The Mastermind, and My Father's Shadow, which I just missed seeing on my last day, but several friends said was the best movie of the festival. So these movies are all going to get proper theatrical releases, which we love to see, and then after that, Mubi will be the exclusive place to watch them. Because Mubi's roots are as a streaming platform, and I think they're one of the only places really doing streaming correctly. Where other platforms are filled with what could best be described as slop, where you have to dig through forever to even find something made before 2010, Mubi is hand-curated by movie lovers to give you this incredible collection of movies from around the world. Tiny indie movies and movies from major auteurs, new movies and old movies. So let me just look at the Mubi app right now and just give you an idea of what's playing. So obviously they've got Mubi exclusives that premiered at Cannes from previous years, like The Substance, Bird, and Decision to Leave. But then they've got Todd Haynes' Carol, which is amazing. They're the only place you can see the recent re-release of Tarsem's The Fall, Fallen Leaves and Passages, some of my favorite movies from a couple years ago, Frances Ha, one of my favorite movies, Enter the Void, The Babadook, another great Lynn Ramsey movie. We need to talk about Kevin. They've got several Kelly Reichardt movies like Wendy and Lucy and Meek's Cutoff, Lee Chang-dong's Burning, which is incredible. They've got multiple Richard Linklater movies like Boyhood and Bernie. If you haven't seen Bernie, it's so good. They actually have The People's Joker, which has been almost impossible to see anywhere. If you liked The Brutalist, they have Brady Corbet's first film, The Childhood of a Leader. If you loved The Substance, they have Caroline Farge's previous movie, Revenge. They have Armando Iannucci's In the Loop, one of the greatest comedies of the century. Look, I could go on forever, but we don't have time in this ad read. But look, there are so many great movies here. And if this sounds at all interesting, then you can get 30 days of Mubi totally free by just signing up with my link. It's down in the description, or you can just type it into the browser. That is a whole month to try it out and watch as many movies as you want. Look, I genuinely love Mubi, so this is a sincere recommendation. Like, I think if you're watching this channel, then you should subscribe to this platform. It's awesome. So look, thank you for watching. Thank you, Mubi, for making this trip possible. And right now, I've got to go catch a flight back to New York. So bye.